You're right, folks, and welcome back. So, pre-patch is on the horizon, and Cata isn't far away. I've done a fair bit on what you should do before the pre-patch hits, so I thought it was about time I do something covering what you can do once it's actually here. And without beating about the bush, let's just crack on. There's no need for some drawn-out preamble on this one. First up then, you got Transmog. Yes, it's going to be in the pre-patch, so for those of you out there like me who enjoy playing fantasy dress-up, you're in for a real treat. And if you are returning to Classic 4 Cataclysm, or perhaps you're joining us for the first time with this expansion, let me go over a few of the features of this version of this system. Now, we will be getting the wardrobe collection system, and for those unaware, this is something that was introduced in Legion and adds appearances to an account-wide UI that you can draw from when visiting the Transmogrifier in your faction capital. If you've only ever played original Cata or Cata private servers, you might only be familiar with the old way of doing things, which required you to have the actual physical item in your inventory somewhere, be that your bags, bank, or void storage. And I'm sure everyone will agree that was a complete arseache. Hauling around 3, 4, 5 expansions worth of crap was never fun. But this does also mean if there is a specific item you're taken with, if you've got multiple characters who can use that item, so long as one of them gets it, it will be added to the collection for all your characters to enjoy, so long as, again, they would be able to use it otherwise. Now, whilst it is a more modern way of doing things, it's not completely modern. We won't be getting the ability to transmog legendaries or hide armor pieces apart from the standard helmet and cloak, or collect trash items for your appearances. It's basically a more up-to-date and polished framework for old-school limitations. All the other modern additions to this system are completely absent, which I suppose is fair enough, middle ground and all that. But with that said, there are still things that are missing. I have mentioned this before, and I'm going to keep mentioning it because not including them is stupid. The ability to save custom sets and to view class sets already in the game. Those two features came packaged with the Legion version of this system when it was introduced, so the exclusion here is glaring and only serves to make Transmog extra clunky in Cataclysm. Hopefully it changes come the pre-patch launch, but be warned, you may have to rebuild your sets from the ground up each and every time you change your outfit. But come the Cata pre-patch, we will also be getting the Old World revamp, so from 1 to 60, there's going to be a whole load of new quests with a load of new appearances that you won't find anywhere else. So if you fancy grabbing yourself some snazzy new bits of kit to transmog over your soon-to-be-replaced epics, I would suggest you get on that. You're gonna be busy once the expansion hits properly, and because the wardrobe system adds the appearances directly to the UI, you won't have to worry about carrying around random greens as opposed to something more visually impressive like tier gear. It all goes into the same place and doesn't take up any space in your inventory at all. So get farming, you might discover a love for fantasy dress up. And that does lead me on nicely to my next topic, leveling. Like I said, the old world from 1 to 60 is remade. And if you are not fond of how leveling works in Classic up to this point, maybe you find it too slow, too meandering, and you'd rather a more focused, streamlined experience, well, now is the time. Again, once the expansion hits, you're gonna be occupied with post-80 content, gearing, prepping for raids, the works, and if your game time is already fairly limited, you probably won't be able to get a new character up unleveled with all that pre-raid bis farming that you're gonna be doing. And take it from someone who's leveled in both the classic pre-patches we've had thus far. It's gonna be a hell of a lot easier and faster in this one. The aforementioned streamlining being one reason, because you're just not gonna be spending as much time wandering around looking for something to do. Quests will just throw themselves at you. And on top of that, the XP required per level isn't going to be as much. You pair heirlooms with that, the dungeon finder at level 15, it's just going to be fast, let's just say that. And another reason to do it is that it is a revamp. The zones are updated, some quests and storylines might be similar, but for the most part it's going to be a completely different experience. You've got things like the day Deathwing came, Sir Maximilian of Northshire, the entirety of the Thousand Needles being one big boating holiday. Look, as someone who prefers the pre-Cata stuff, even I can't deny how bloody funny some of these updated quests and zones are. You've got 3 weeks or so to kill before we get into the meat of the expansion. Go have a look-see at the updated zones, even if just on your main. It'll be a giggle, and at the end of the day, the purpose of a game is to have fun, which you will do here. You're also going to have the 2 new races and the updated race class combinations. So if you fancy playing a Tauren Paladin or you want to level a Worgen, it is honestly going to be the perfect time. You'll be able to level without having to worry about your main character, or that you're not out there farming heroics hour after hour. So if you want to level that alt or a new main, you can do it without fear of falling behind. And as a side note for the mount collectors out there, if you level up a Worgen or a Goblin and then go purchase their racial mounts, they will be available to all your characters, and it'll probably be faster than grinding the rep out on your main. But at the end of the day, you do you. Perhaps you want to grind the rep, lest it tarnish your otherwise gleaming reputation tab. Then you've got arguably the most fun part about a pre-patch: new talents, old content. So yes, the pre-patch will be giving each class and spec its updated talent trees, all the bells and whistles associated with that. And as such, now will be the time to go and be stupid in PvP, for example. Mess around with talents that you otherwise wouldn't even give a second glance once the expansion launches fully. Just go out there and have fun with the concept of talents without being too worried about what's best. Having said that though, Cata trees are infinitely more restrictive than what came before, so don't expect anything too wacky, but maybe you're planning on being a fire mage or a survival hunter come Cata's actual launch, but you just think, you know what, to hell with that, I've got 3 weeks to mess around, let's try kill the Lich King as Frost or Beastmaster, just so you can show off your Water Elemental or Spirit Beast pets for a couple of resets. Do it! It's the pre-patch, progression is meaningless, go and throw snowballs at Hellion if it makes you happy. And speaking from experience, outside of Vanilla Classic, the only time I really set foot in a battleground is the pre-patch, because it's usually completely balked. But it's balked for everyone, and it's one of those rare things in the game where we can all go nuts for a few weeks and it doesn't really mean anything. Just again, it's simple, unfiltered fun with our new toys. Archaeology. This is a big one, possibly the biggest thing to come out of the Cata pre-patch. Archaeology is just a great way to waste a few hours. Grab yourself a warm brew, maybe a sandwich, put your favourite creators on your second monitor, hint hint, and just dig away. Now, this profession is a literal goldmine for vanity items. If you want your toys, mounts, pets, the works really, this is not going to be something you can just pass up. Some of the more notable rewards include the oh-so-sought-after fossilised raptor and its mini-me, the fossilised hatchling. Now, these should be available in the pre-patch, so get digging if you really fancy your chances at a Skelly Raptor. But once the expansion goes live fully, if you've been leveling your skill in the profession, you will be far better placed to get your hands on something far more prestigious. In fact, it's the only collectible in Archaeology that has eluded me even to this day on retail. The Scepter of Aj-Akir. It's just an AQ mount, a nice blue one that you can use in the open world. Now, if you're one of those sweaty scarab lords, this is nothing to you. You already have an objectively cooler looking beetle to run around on. But for those peasants amongst us who are not so blessed as to receive this boon, it's a hella cool thing to acquire and will make you the talk of the town. But it is also worth mentioning that we won't be getting flying in the pre-patch because Blizzard don't like fun. So if you do go about leveling this profession, at least whilst you're in the old world, you're gonna be on foot. So be prepared for a lot of running around, and just pray that you're doing it on a mage or something. And a word of advice from your friendly neighbourhood root vegetable. If you aren't particularly fussed with which of your characters you actually do this on, I would recommend, should you have one, you do it on an alchemist. Why? Well, everything worthwhile that you can get from Archaeology is account-wide in one form or another, with one single solitary exception: the Vial of the Sands recipe from Tolversites. This is the recipe that allows alchemists to whip up the mount that allows you to turn into a big bastard stone dragon and carry your friends on your back. Apart from being a must-have for any mount collector out there, it is a surefire moneymaker. You will be seeing these go for inhuman prices, especially at the start of the expansion. It might fluctuate here and there for sure, but it's always going to be a moneymaker to some degree. So even if your alchemist is just an alt you play once in a while, I would honestly recommend making them your go-to archaeologist, because you can still get that big shiny BOE item you're after and send them to the relevant raiding character. You're not going to be at any kind of disadvantage doing this, so you can still save up your 200 troll fragments for Zinrock or whatever BOA it is you're after. But on that, I think it's time I hand you over to someone a touch more savvy, shall we say, when it comes to that sort of thing. So, take it away, special guest!
Hi, I'm Riani, and I'm all about going that extra mile for a slight advantage when it comes to maximizing player power. And with us getting Archaeology in the pre-patch, there will be a ton of things to do to prepare ourselves for Cataclysm release. There are 7 359 item level epic items that will be available from Archaeology, with most notable being Zinrock and the Thurisian staff being far better than any other pre-read option, and as such, we must work towards getting those specific items as soon as possible. First comes leveling from 1 to 450 in an efficient manner. You gain skill points by simply surveying from level 1 to 100, and as such, you should refrain from crafting any artifacts between those levels. Once we reach level 300, we want to head to Outland until level 450, as we won't have access to flying in the old world. I can assure you that warlocks smelling a business opportunity will have summons available at each of the Eastern Kingdom dig sites. So that's another thing to consider if your wallet is bigger than your patience. Once we reach level 450, like Carrot alluded to before, we should have 200 fragments saved up for launch with the faction that we're looking to get gear from. Stack up on the appropriate keystones and never ever craft any artifacts without utilizing a keystone whenever possible. If you're now down with the grind and feel like you have more time to kill, you can do it all over again on an alt, as the items are bind on account. If you have the possibility, then do this farm on a dwarf, as they will get a passive that increases how many fragments you can get per dig site. They also make the survey cast quicker. For part 2 of this video, come over to my channel where I go over all of the sweaty things you can do during pre-patch as a raider in preparation for Cataclysm launch. But for now, back to Carrot.
Thank you, you beautiful bastard! Seriously, check out that jawline, those cheeks! Good God! But if you haven't already, do go and have a look at his channel, drop him many likes and all of the subscribes. The dude is honestly wicked as hell and deserves all of the love you can give him. But I'll end things here for now. If you think I've missed something worth mentioning, do go and check out Riani's video. It's probably been covered over there. And I also realised when doing the recording, I've made individual videos on some of these topics before, just going into a bit more depth. So if you want more info on what I've gone over today, I will leave links to those past creations of mine in the description down below for you to peruse. Anyway, if you're so kind to like, sub, share your pals and so on, that'll be grand, and I'm sure Riani would appreciate it too. Have a good one, folks. Bye for now.